Hi, I'm Allie,
And I'm Dahlia.
and welcome to Navigate the Now, Season 1 final episode.
What?
Woo!
Can you believe it? Episode number
Unbelievable.
10. Wrapping it
Yes.
up.
Wrapping it up. If you're enjoying us, we are on Instagram at Navigate the Now. And if you've been listening and you haven't, like, share, subscribe, you know, cool thing
Yeah.
if you do.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
don't,
Do
it's
us do
okay
us a
too.
solid if you can.
Yeah.
We'd
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of effort, a lot of time goes into this. So I feel like I have a whole new respect for podcasters.
It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Felt like a child a little bit. You're
You
our
felt like a child.
a baby. No, like it felt like a little baby that we had to tend to,
Oh,
you know?
okay, okay.
Like
I thought you felt like a baby, but
I
no, the
feel like a
podcast.
baby.
So this is our season finale. We're gonna take a little bit of a break, a summer break, but we're coming back. We're coming back with some new things, new guests.
With a
I'm
vengeance.
excited. We're coming back with a vengeance.
You said you were
Um,
saying with, and I was like, with a vengeance.
yes, yeah, absolutely, with a vengeance. Um,
Um,
what else?
and before I get started, I was thinking last night, I wanted to add in there really quick that a special shout out. I was thinking, like, would we have done this if we didn't go to that march and have that like energizing moment in meetup? So
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe we would have, but shout out to our March friends who went with us and were there with us.
Yeah.
So shout out to Lauren, Andrea, and Jess, because I felt like they were with us when we kind of were on this little journey of being like, hey, what do we do? What should we do?
Yeah, what
So
next? And they're
yeah,
really encouraging of it too. So absolutely, shout out.
yeah, yeah. So
Shout out to them. So today what we're going to go over, do a little recap of the amazing guests that we've had,
oh
lessons learned, and wrap up with a little what next, what to
yeah,
expect next. Of course, we got to start with our community agreements, Allie. Almost forgot. Almost.
yes, yes. Yeah, I can do them.
Okay.
Number one, speaking in draft. Our community agreement number one is speaking in draft. Doesn't have to be a polished thought. We assume everyone is doing their best and that, quote unquote, most people have good intentions. Um, we're not here to be right, but to get it right. Be present, active listening with each other, and mindful of our speaking space and how much time we're taking up. I don't have to tell a guest that that's for us and not them this time.
We got to keep that in mind. That's
It's for
fine.
us. We're yappers. This is a space to learn and grow and listen to understand instead of listening to respond. Somebody added that for us, and thank you, whoever that was. I feel like that was Bella and Zara, maybe.
Yeah.
And have fun. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, I was looking at from all the guests, there's two guests that added on to our agreement, and Monica added on. Remember, most people have good intentions, and Zara and Bella
Okay,
said, listen to understand instead of listening to respond.
cool. Thanks,
Solid
Monica, and thanks,
add-ons to our
Bella, and
agreements.
thanks, Sarah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we kind of skipped over at the beginning, kind of like us going back to where we were when we started this,
True. Hmm.
which is that we were feeling pretty overwhelmed by everything politically and socially. And I was just gonna say, I don't know if that's changed for me.
Mm.
Um,
Well, yeah, I think that also comes in ebb and flows of feeling optimistic and then feeling like
yes.
shit's hitting the fan. Today is, as we're recording this, the morning of July 3rd, Thursday morning. And it's looking like, if anybody's been following this big bullshit bill that Trump has, uh, his puppets trying to push through, it's looking like it's going to pass. There's been some amendments to it, but overall, it is looking like it's going to pass. So I can definitely understand coming on today, recording today, and not feeling as optimistic because I'm in the healthcare field, and so this bill it includes a lot. I'm not even going to pretend to know everything that's included in it. I don't even think the
Yeah.
people who put it together or who are going to pass it even understand what's going to happen. But what I know is that there's going to be Medicaid cuts. People are going to be impacted, and even if you're not on Medicaid, you know, you will feel the repercussions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was watching something that, just like recently, and it was like Medicaid and Medicare, they're like the invisible backbone of our country. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it's totally true. So many people benefit from, and it's not perfect, right? But to cut back even more the resources and the support to communities that, once again, are communities that are most impacted or the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
The teacher in me is like, okay, what are the measurable things that are happening? Hospitals will close, like especially rural hospitals. I know I saw it was a rep from Kentucky breaking down like, okay, you're in this and this speaks to me more like my husband's family's from Eastern Kentucky, and his grandfather had a medical episode at a reunion, and he had to be flown somewhere. A lot of those places are already severely underserved. So now we're going to be intensifying even worse. And this breakdown was essentially like, so there's this hospital is going to be closing, and the next hospital is X amount of miles, but it takes a really long time to get there because of roads through the mountains. It's really indirect. Oh, but that hospital is going to be closing too. So you have to consider that, when you start talking about closing down medical facilities and really increasing time, it's a much more likelihood of people will die. And that's why, people say like people are going to die. And it's like, yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then in addition, something I didn't understand is that, Medicaid support, when people come in and they can't afford to pay often, Medicaid is what supports that. So now the burden is on the hospital. And that actually is going to come back to people that have insurance. They're going to have to eat that cost somehow. So I didn't understand that. That actually the hospital starts having to put the burden on someone else, and it's going to be us. So you're not, no, just because you have insurance, I think that's really important to understand. And I say that because I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Before I heard somebody break it down, I knew cutting Medicaid was bad, very bad, but I
Right.
didn't
But how it
understand
directly impacts.
that the cost that we are going to eat the cost now. So
Yeah. So we're restricting, facilities are going to close. That means other facilities that are going to stay open are going to be overly burdened.
that's,
There's going to
yes.
be longer wait times. And on top of that, yeah, somebody is going to eat the bill.
And
So,
yeah, it's tough. And then you read these, there, in the South and some of these places, there's like no OBGYNs already. Oof. I just read that 10 counties in Kansas ended their Meals on Wheels programs for seniors as of this week. And I'm just like, I can't, it's tough. So it's been a heavy past couple weeks. I mean, it's been a shit show since January, but yeah.
yeah, well, where do you go from there? And I
I
think
know, I know.
I think this is once again the reason why we wanted to do this podcast. If
Yes.
anything, I know today feels heavy because of what's going on, with the stupid bill. But as we've gone through and we had these guests on and we talked about different ways to come together as community mutual aid, how to, navigate difficult political discussions with family, how people power will always be greater than money power, right? These are things that after each conversation that we've had with a guest, I know, Ellie, we've talked about like, we felt like a renewed energy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything is not all bad, right?
A
And
hundred
so,
percent. You got to go touch grass.
yeah, yeah, you gotta touch grass, you gotta hug a tree, you gotta hug somebody, hug your neighbor.
I feel like you just watched us spiral out and then come back in real time. Like, we're modeling here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we're just
We,
navigating ourselves. You know what I mean? We
yeah,
keep
we're,
saying that, just trying to
yeah.
figure things out. And I came off from a high. I think a lot of folks in the country with Zoran Mamdani winning the
Oh yeah.
primary Democratic election over Andrew Cuomo. A big win. I felt we can,
Woo!
yes. Uh, and I can go into it a little bit more later on, but that also felt like a
Yeah.
win, at least in my eyes, to see that there's other ways of doing government that is popular that people do want to try out.
Yeah. People are terrified of him. It's almost shocking to me how terrified people are
Yeah,
of him, which
and it's
says a
like
lot.
weird, right? Like
Yeah.
it's weird that
Yeah.
people are terrified of him, but this big bullshit bill can pass and it's going to impact
Yeah.
lives a lot more in a negative way.
Yeah. Propaganda's a hell of a drug. Yeah. I've been really surprised. I didn't not everybody's going to love everybody.
Right.
But I've been surprised by how strong the backlash has been,
Oh,
because I think I kind of thought, like, okay, New York already has AOC, like, this is in their purview. This isn't something super out of their range. But whew, like
people
people
are
are
coming
really
at him.
freaking
People are
out.
coming at him
So
for reasons that don't even really are not even substantial, right? It's really fear mongering.
it's
Right? The president
crazy.
said that he would be willing to arrest and take away his citizenship if he doesn't comply with him regarding these ICE raids. And it's fucking
It's
insane
crazy. It's
to
so
think that the
crazy.
president of this country is saying that.
Yeah.
But, uh, hopefully November we can officially elect him in. And I will say that he's not the solution for everything. We still need to hold him accountable, just like we need to start holding everybody accountable, all our politicians that work for us,
That's
that
right.
work for us. And Zara posted. Zara's really great. I don't know if any the listeners haven't been following her Instagram yet, but she's been posting some really good Instagram things, memes. I don't know if it's not really memes,
Kind of
but
like I feel like they're artfully crafted little small think pieces, like a kind of a good quip, if that's the word I'm trying to look
yeah,
for. That's quick. That's
you
quick.
you nailed it. You nailed it. And one of the
Yeah.
pieces is we will not let billionaires control the conversation of what is possible in our governments and in our world. And I think that is exactly where people are at right now. They want more people like Zoran Mamdani to be able to say, yeah, I'm a democratic socialist, and what? So I want to make buses fast and free. So I want to make universal childcare for all, affordable groceries.
Right. Right.
Is that really that
I
crazy to think
know.
that we can do that? Like, we can
It's
do better and we
not.
deserve better.
Um.
Well,
All
shall
right.
we go a little review? We had our first guest. I was looking when we had our first guest. It was,
We
we
had
dropped that. It was like April. Damn. I had
we
left
had
my thing.
Monica.
Monica.
Monica Espitia. We dropped it on May 16th, so it really hasn't been very long, because we were doing it every week, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Our first episode was April 17th. But she was our first guest. It feels like we've
Yeah.
been doing this for a while, but but we haven't.
Damn.
But it was really special having her on. I think she was like the perfect first guest. Just a little reminder, she's a journalist. She works for the Wall Street Journal, and is a podcast producer. And so she came in with highlighting different ways to navigate conversations. And some highlights, some takeaways from her episode was people lead with their values, with their emotions, and not so much facts. So coming at somebody with 1,000 facts that they may or may not already know isn't super.
It may not work.
It may not work, right?
Yeah.
But really leaning into conversations with curiosity, and I was like, I had this thought, and I was like, I don't know how it's going to come out, but that one person that or the few people that or whatever that voted for Trump, you taking your anger out on those people I don't really feel like is the solution. I understand, right? I've seen a lot of these clips of on Instagram, social media, where it's like, oh, you voted for this, now you, X, Y, and Z. And yeah, I get it. Yeah, a shit ton of people did vote for Trump, right? Because they thought something else was going to happen. But going against one another is not. I don't personally think is going to be the solution. And anyways, I'll say that,
Yeah.
think what you will, but with Monica's conversation, I think that really led to the whole, be stern and firm in what you believe, but also like be open to what other people are saying and not, and hearing the in between words and not necessarily the message, because the message, like it's how people deliver messaging may not be exactly what is.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're saying the same thing, we're just saying it differently. But
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Now I know specifically what you're speaking to, which is more like a lot of the times we're actually on the same side of an issue. It's just like what people do about it, how to go about tackling it is where we differ. And I was just going to say, I was listening to you and I was thinking it can be kind of a dance with people that you don't agree with, because on this one hand, it's aside from we want to have good open conversations with people and we want to invite thoughtful discourse, I guess. But the other thought I was thinking is also, it's what I keep hearing over and over again, is essentially that they want us to kind of be divided, or it benefits what's happening right now for people to be angry at each other and divided. So that's kind of what gives me pause. But I do want to add that I feel like when you have family, I do think it could be, that's something I can't relate to, of having like close family members to me vote
right
for Trump. Nobody in my immediate family I can say is voting for Trump that I have to sit with at Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. I don't have to share spaces with those people, and I can accept it. I know people who have, for instance, parents, and I'm like, that's tough.
Right.
And that would be, I would have a hard time giving that person grace, probably, if it was my parent, my mother,
Yeah.
my father.
Very true. Very true.
So,
One of the things that Monica also mentioned is like, not every discussion you need to engage with, right? You do have to protect your peace. And everybody's in different mental spaces at different times too. So it's, making sure to checking in with yourself.
And she offered good advice that Katie also offered, that we discussed, which was which you touched on, the curiosity. But it's like, I find that, again, when I feel like a conversation's getting kind of weird, or I'm like, okay, I just start asking them questions. So, because that will, usually people have certain talking points, like I said, that they just stick to. And so if you start asking them questions, they have to start diverting from the script. So, it can be a chance to kind of open up and, well, why do you think that? Well, anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we loved having Monica on. Thank you, Monica. We were so excited. I can't emphasize that, like, we got to talk to Monica our first episode. It was super cool. Well, we appreciate Monica coming on, but every guest. Yeah.
Ditto. Yeah.
And then after that we had Zara and Bella, and their main points were mutual aid over charity. And I loved this phrase that you have here, Dahlia, building solidarity, not saviorism, which is, I think, pretty important. I don't know if that was stated in the episode. I don't remember it. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about it, and the idea is solidarity over charity.
Yeah.
Right. Like, where everybody's in it together at one point or another, everybody will need support in some way, somehow.
Right.
And that is the idea a lot of these times with these like charity groups, is they think that they know what's best for a particular community. So they come in and say, this is how we're going to help you, versus how can we help you? How can we help each other?
A good old, a hierarchical handout. Pretty more so. Yeah.
So that was a really excellent episode on learning how to work with one another. And something else that was mentioned, that one of the highlights of being part of a mutual aid group is learning how to communicate with one another, because in a mutual aid group there isn't one particular person that is driving force, right? Everybody puts in their thoughts and their ideas, everybody puts in their vote and move forward together. And also everybody's responsible for leading if you're interested in leading some sort of share skill event, take the lead on that and people will support you.
Right.
So that just a lot of really great skills to have to live life in general. So that was a
I,
really
I, I,
great episode.
I feel like, and we're going to talk about it, but when I came to visit you and you were putting together the food pantry drive to pass out food at Humanity Fest, you talked about how you get personalities that come in and you have to work together.
Hmm.
And I kind of stuck with me because I thought sometimes I think some of the hardest parts of being in any kind of, whatever you want to call it, organization, especially where you're just showing up like that. And exactly, like there isn't established. You're all working together. Because I see this in the cat rescue, and I
Hmm.
think sometimes I'm like, sometimes the hardest part is like communication. I hold the TNR cats here overnight before they go get fixed, and this is like a little quick example of just putting it into real life. But I stopped and I thought about this episode and I thought about what you told me, and I keep coming back to this whenever things get sticky at the cat rescue,
Hmm.
and I'm like, it's communication.
Yeah.
But it was going to be really hot the last couple of weeks, like really, really hot, almost like what was like heat index of 100 and something. Anyways, and really hot overnight. And they stay in my barn, and I only had a little fan, and I didn't know if I had something else. Ultimately, we didn't know if we should be fixing these cats if it was too hot outside, essentially, to be keeping them outside. So, because sometimes they don't recommend it if it's super hot, but we weren't doing it one week and then now we're not doing it this week. So it was really important to do. And the girl who runs TNR felt really passionate about making sure we got this run done at least once because we were skipping 2 different weeks. Long story short. And then somebody else was like, well, I don't know. It might just be too hot. And so finally I was like, well, if I can get a fan, what if so I just posted like a fan like this would be really helpful. And the director was like, oh, you just have to tell me I need this fan.
Mm-hmm.
And she ordered me this awesome industrial, really nice fan that came, and like all was well. And I thought
Yeah.
like, oh, this was just like an issue of communication.
Right.
So anyways, I've come back to that a lot. And like when you came back to me after the food drive and your experience and then listening to the mutual aid, I thought so much of it is just like learning to get by with
Yeah.
people also while you're doing it is important.
Hmm.
I
That
always got a
yeah.
cat tangent.
That and so many other takeaways from the Zara and Bella episode. Appreciate you
Yes.
both
Thank you
coming
so
on.
much, Sarah and Bella. Again, I was so excited for every guest in their own unique way. So
Hmm.
this was super cool because I had never really heard very much about mutual aid. And now I feel like it's everywhere. Where I work, we do work with another mutual aid. And maybe I just never like picked up on the
Yeah.
phrasing or something. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Well,
So
I feel like it's big now because a lot of people are trying to figure out how they can be active and support their
yeah.
community. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we had Father Carl come on, an
Father
Episcopal
Carl.
priest. I love that guy. Super sweet.
Love that guy. And I got to meet Father Carl and I got to meet Zara when I came to
Yeah,
New York.
it was
So
awesome.
super cool.
So
Yeah.
some takeaways from his episode. He was a two-parter. He spoke about how he got into priesthood and his work with the Queen's Power, which is a coalition made up of different faith groups and non-for-profits and other organizations. And the idea behind that is to hold politicians accountable, to tell them what we
Hmm.
want. And in this, I frequently think about this episode too when I think about politicians, they work for us, right? We got to hold them
That's right.
accountable. And I was uh, blessed enough. I was able to join him and his church to participate in a huge town hall meeting. It was like over 2,000 people that joined, not only just in person, but virtually, and all of the major Democratic primary runners were there. Andrew Cuomo was there. Little side chat about that. This particular town hall in the works for months, right? People knew about this. Many of the other candidates are agreed. Yes, I'm going. Andrew Cuomo didn't even agree to go until like the day before. So I think that also just goes to show that he just thinks very little of New Yorkers. And the reason why I say that is that he showed up and he thought he was being all cute and cheeky. And his message was, well, I was in retirement and I was told that New York City needs help. So I'm here to provide help. Like, how is that not type of saviorism? So,
Yeah.
I mean, with Zoran's speech and with many others, it wasn't that I'm going to help. It's we are going to find a group to help, and we together are
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
provide that support to the city, as a whole.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to like one person can't fix everything, but we have to try to put the solutions in place to garner the most output using the most people, or,
Yeah.
understanding that it is a group project.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it is a
you're
group
just
project.
you're just in charge. You are just in charge of the group project.
Yeah.
There was a graph that I saw yesterday. Millionaires in Congress is 51%, but millionaires in the U.S. is 5%. It almost seems high, honestly. In the U.S., white men in Congress is 77%, but in America, 31.
Yeah.
Women in Congress, 20%, but 51% of the U.S. And over 55 in Congress is 67% and only 28% of the U.S. So it just gives you like
Can you repeat that last stat? I didn't catch it.
over 55, like 55 and up in age
Oh.
and years old in Congress is 67%, but only 28% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know that I love visualizations like this. They're little pie charts
Yeah.
because it helps me understand like, yeah, we're being ruled by people who are really out of touch with the like greater society.
Yeah. And just go off on a little tangent here. I was messaging with a cousin of mine and, love her. She's Republican. She reached out to me. She started the conversation about Zoran and she made a comment like, well, because I told her that I went canvassing, and she's like, well, the difference between you and I is that I'm not wasting my time or my money on politicians because they're all shitty anyways, right?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was through text, so I was able to kind of take a little step back. I didn't necessarily address that specifically. I addressed it more
Yeah.
like, I can understand that people feel that way. Really what made me think, like, you may not be spending your time or your money, but there's a hell of a lot of people. There's a hell of a lot of rich folk that are putting their money and they're getting the result that they want in politics. So when you talk about that pie chart, I'm not surprised that people are feeling like the politicians are not doing anything, because when you have that type of representation that doesn't represent the actual United States as a whole, it's hard to get the outcomes that we're looking for.
And also, you should tell her to listen to the episode. I forget which one it is, but we break that down a little bit of that all politicians are bad grooms you. I believe is what I said. Grooms you to be like, well, this guy says he's bad and is honest about it, so I'll go with him, or her, or them. But the shitty people are relying on you to have that jadedness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want you to feel this
Yeah.
illusion.
I can't think of his name. He's a New York Times opinion writer, and I love him. And I'm gonna look him up really quick. Jamel Bowie. I think that's how you say his last name. I am such a fan of his. But yeah, he talks a lot about how disillusionment with all politicians is really just. And it's a lot of people. I find a lot of people who support Trump say that, like, well, all politicians are bad, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's why you don't mind voting for a rapist.
Yeah. I just looked it up real quick. The episode that you're referring to is our episode 4, Make Algorithms Great Again.
MAGA.
Moving along, we had Katie.
Yes.
Your good friend Katie joined us.
Katie,
Educator,
that was fun.
lawyer. Yeah. That was
Of
really
our other
informative.
good friend Michelle messaged me and said, I felt like I was sitting having a beer with you guys when I listened
Oh,
to that. And I was like, oh,
that's that's exactly how I want every listener to feel. Like they're just sitting down,
yes.
having a
We're just
beer,
chatting. We're
cocktail,
yapping.
glass of water, tea,
Yeah.
your your
And
preferred bev, your preferred bevy.
two girls, two cups. That was a joke before we started because I had coffee. Do you have tea?
Water
Oh, okay. Well, that
and coconut
counts.
water.
Oh, two girls,
Double
three
hydrate.
cups.
Yeah,
Is
so
that our, I was thinking, is that our new angle, our new
I
direction?
don't think I want to go in that direction.
It's
I don't
catchy.
know.
It
It's
it will
catchy.
grab people's attention
I'm just not.
in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, that's. Hey, we can wordsmith that a bit. We can talk it out. Maybe we bring it back season 2. I don't know.
That's right. That's right.
So with Katie, we spoke about due process. Also, we dedicated that episode to my niece's
Oh yeah.
grandmother who was abducted. She went to her check-in. They took her, and with under 10 days, I think it was like 10 days or something like that, something ridiculously fast.
It was quick.
Yeah, kidnapped her, deported her. Like it was wild.
Just dropped her, which not just her, whoever's with her,
Yeah, it
but
was
just dropped her on the other side of the border with no
right by
like
the border.
I,
That's what they do.
I share that story so often with people because as a white person from, born and raised in the United States from the Midwest originally and now back, I'm like, how many people hear about this, around me? So
No.
yeah, they're not taking them to some facility. It's like, go figure it out. You're on the other side of the border, figure it out. And like you said, it's not safe where they're leaving these people. Yeah. And the Department of Homeland Security even wrote what I would call a vile post about her
Yeah.
and her family on X. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. I'm not calling it X. But
On Twitter, yeah. So the little update on that,
refuse.
when that happened, the family, posted very vocal. The community rallied around the family. People, like People Magazine,
Yeah.
posted an article on their website.
I saw it just on like a news site organically on my Instagram feed.
Yeah. And so Department of Homeland Security, being the little bitches that they are, decided to post on their Twitter account about how what was being shared was all fake. But whatever, they're racist. Oh, I can't. Okay. Perfectly tied in with Katie's episode because we did talk about due process and we learned the difference between civil and criminal spaces operating differently. So
Yeah, I learned a lot that episode in that because it's a civil case, there's actually not as many rights afforded to them, which is almost like a loophole that's being exploited to some extent, which
crazy.
put things into perspective for me
Yeah.
much better.
Agree. Then our final guest, Onika. The radical power of leading with love. She spoke about meditation, cultivating loving kindness even in hard times. I thought she was a great guest to have on to wrap up the season. She kept it. It felt good, feel good, but also like keeping it real too. Like it's not easy to love. And one of the things I was mentioning in the episode is like you don't have to like somebody to love somebody. But
Yeah, I was just going back through that episode and there's some good practicing unconditional, I think she calls it friendliness, is really hard in practice. And I was like, yeah.
yeah, say it less. It's hard.
She did get into politically as well and
Yeah, she spoke
activism and mindfulness, which I think is really important and something often missing in a lot of these wellness spaces. I'm envious of your yoga studio there in Sunnyside. It's like diverse and like, which, yeah, I think it has what a lot of spaces don't.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. Just a reminder, she's a yoga teacher,
Yeah.
and that was a part of the angle that she took when she came on as our guest, and did speak about spiritual activism and how it's not just about breathing through what's uncomfortable, but it's about action too. Like we use our breath in order to be able to get through tough situations, to be able to stand up for others that can't stand up for themselves. It's very
Yeah.
social justice, which I want to tie it back to Father Carl's episode as well. With religion and politics, people mislead or misuse God's name, Allah, whatever religious
Right.
deity, to want to put power over people, right? And with one of the things that Father Carl also mentions is that love over power. So there's been a thread throughout all our guests, commonalities, and I think love is one of them. I don't know. I'm seeing a pattern here.
I loved listening to Father Carl talk about religion in this ethos of caring and also I think it's really important to directly state how harmful it is to use religion the way that it is being weaponized here in the United States. I think sometimes just so as much as directly stating it and putting it in words is really meaningful, and I really appreciated hearing him speak on that as well.
I was going to say, and that's basically what Onika and Father Carl also were similar in their messaging, was that to be a yogi, to be religious, is to stand up for social justice and to stand up for others, right? To be able to make sure that everybody's fed, that everybody's safe.
Yeah. That's definitely missing from a lot of yoga spaces. In my experience.
And a lot of churches too. Like a lot of places.
Well, oh my God. But Onika called it chasing the dragon. And I think a lot of people are there to chase the dragon. I had an amazing yoga teacher that I loved that did these meaningful talks and was really deeply rooted in the studies of the Yoga Sutras and really rooted herself in that. And had like somebody she studied with regularly, and she was really devoted, and I loved that. But as a whole, I think when you talk about the scene as a whole, it's missing. It's more about chasing the dragon, as Onika called it, which is like just getting that high and feeling good, and not putting it into perspective of like stepping out and seeing the trees through the forest. Isn't that what we say, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's just a brief overview of the different guests that we had, our takeaways. I know I'll be listening to them again and again. I encourage everybody to listen to.
That's right.
Yeah, listen.
You better listen.
And I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about just lessons from starting a podcast. If you're thinking about starting one, if you're thinking about starting an Instagram page, whatever you're thinking about doing, I say just do it. You don't have to have the highest technology or what have you. Like, I know I did buy a new computer, but it was actually kind of time for me to buy a new computer. But that was a lesson for me. I remember before we posted the first episode, that fear that I felt was real. And now what I'm feeling is just pride. I'm feeling so prideful in us, Allie, that we said that we were going to do this, and we did it, and we showed up, and I feel like we've gotten a little closer over this season, our podcast season, working together to figure out the name, the logo.
It's a baby. Remember, I said it's a child.
It's our baby.
I was thinking, you're thinking about it kind of all the time, and maybe it was just because it's this kind of in the moment thing that you and I are doing. But like when you're not working or you're not doing whatever, I kept being like, okay, what about this? Or you kind of had it. It's kind of like doing this right behind your head.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said I was thinking in like podcast. Like this is what I would say on the podcast. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I thought because we're on video and I have my hand behind my head. I thought you said I was thinking about my podcast perm. like my special podcast hair back there. Yeah. It's always on when you're thinking about your podcast. But no, yeah. You're like, oh, I should have said that, or I could say this, or like, yeah, or you're thinking about how you might speak about it.
Yeah.
For me, it was like exposure therapy. Because what women are to be seen and not heard so much, like, you know, as much as you and I, people probably are like, they do not think that. But on a more formal level, I think it's like, and when it's in the water that you swim in, you feel vulnerable and kind of almost like you're, I don't know, like doing something you shouldn't be doing is sometimes how I felt like, you know, about this. Like,
worried I'm going to be taken the wrong way, or like, I'm glad we had the community agreements, because then I just kept thinking about it. What I'm saying doesn't have to be a complete polished thought. Like, let's just work through it. And it helped ease a bit of anxiety as well.
Definitely. But there was a lot of fear in the beginning. And then, like you said, I'm glad I kind of like that we did like a spiral out in the beginning and then bring it back in real time. Like, because that's what everybody's going through. But it was really healing, helpful, whatever word some people might resonate with better, to sit down and check in with people that are out there making this world a better place and want the best for this world, or doing in their own way, which everyone was. It is, to me, again, a piece of this activism in your own way, of showing up and somehow connecting with people that are on the same page as you, which I think is really important, which I've seen is like why even just going to a protest, which is something I think we can attest to, maybe, is sometimes going to a protest isn't about going and protesting. It's like going and being around all these awesome people that are like, fuck yeah. I remember we went with a group of people more recently, and somebody was like, it is so amazing to be in this massive group of people. I feel, you know, so alone all the time. And I'm like, yeah. So to me, it's like a different mode of the same thing is kind of what we're experiencing.
I like that. Showing up in whatever way. And I think that was another thread throughout all the episodes, is that you show up in whatever feels right to you, whatever your capacity is. There is no right way. I had a friend ask me earlier on, what would you say if people would come at you and say, well, you're not that big of an activist, or how are you claiming the activist term? And I think now I feel confident in saying that this isn't a competition of who's doing more or who's doing what, right? It's just your intention.
Colonialist standard.
Yeah.
Who's doing the most? Yeah. We all could be doing more and caring more, or more people at the very least, you know, like we need to be opening the circle wider very clearly and inviting more people and engaging with more people.
Yeah. Fun things that happened over the season. Allie came and visited New York City. We had a great weekend. I call it a very New York City weekend. It was packed. I was exhausted for like days after you left.
I felt weird telling everybody I was so tired that week. Like, I don't know. I went to New York. Like, but it was really tiring.
It was back to back. We did Humanity Fest, impromptu Pride Parade that we walked in. We visited Monica, another Monica who will be a guest in season 2.
Oh, yeah.
We were trying, this is one of those lessons learned. We were trying to record in person. Didn't work out well. But anyways, it was a lovely evening. We met her friends. We ended up staying for dinner. It was a whole vibe.
Let's be clear. We got there at 3 p.m. and we left at like 9:15.
Yeah, we stayed the whole.
It was great. But I do think I want to commend you. This was going to be the first time we did an in-person interview. We bought these mics. We had like the little tiny fuzzy mics that everybody sees on social media. Yeah. We got these damn mics. We charged them in the midst of being super busy the entire time, we kept like looking at these mics when we were sitting on your couch, like, all right, are we gonna, we got this, like we can do this. And then we show up ultimately and it sounds like shit. And we could not figure out what was going on. We eventually led us to the point of sitting in a different, I was about to go sit in the bathroom and you were in Monica's bedroom, and we were going to let Monica sit in the living room because we could not figure out how to not get this echo. And you were like, let's just not do this right now. And like this is, and at first I was like, yeah, but I came like, and I was like, no, you're right. If it's not right, we shouldn't do it, which I feel is part of the big picture of like, we don't have to force things. We don't have to push things. Capitalist society wants us to feel like we have to complete something for it to be meaningful. And that, I felt like when you said that to me, I realized I was operating in this, we have to do this, right? We have to have this thing that we did from this. And I was like, no, you're right. It should be, I want it to be quality, and I don't want it to sound like shit, and I want it to feel good.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's all part of the process, knowing when to stop, when to keep going. The time there was worth it. I know we went there to record. We didn't do a recording, but we chatted
so
quite a bit.
We met two of Monica's friends, and we all just sat and talked about heavy world topics, but in like fun gab way. It was good. It was really good. And I think everybody left that night feeling really, really good, because I texted her and she's like, they were feeling super ecstatic as well. So it just felt really good.
Yeah. I know. I think the following, that was a Sunday, and then on Monday you were leaving, and you and I were talking, and I was sharing, it's hard for me to be around people that don't care right now. Like, just where I'm at right now. Like, I want to be with people that care, that are doing something. And I know not everybody's there, right? Not everybody's there, but right now that's kind of like the energy that I'm drawn to, and how I want to spend my time, right?
Yeah.
So that, going into Zoran campaign, I know we spoke earlier in the season. I really wanted to see Corinne Fisher on the ballot. She is a comedian, a writer, podcaster, and I really believe that having her on the ballot, her on the debate stage, was going to be like a change that was needed, But because of ballot accessibility, all that jazz, it did not work. But I did put my efforts behind Zoran campaign. I went canvassing, I did some phone banking, and met a lot of really great people, and the energy was insane. Like,
I could feel it through the phone.
Yeah. You can feel it. Yes.
I could feel it. I could feel your photos through the phone. I felt really inspired when I saw everything that night.
And once again, it's about electing good people, but also keeping them accountable for their work. So I'm looking forward to calling him my mayor, but also looking forward to making sure that he continues to do what I believe he will do, working with others, finding a solution to make life more affordable. Yeah. All right. Well, any last words, Allie?
I do. I feel like I want to put a poll out on what to name this little baby kitten that I have, because I can't decide. And I was like, oh, maybe I should ask tomorrow. Maybe I should ask Dahlia, or maybe I should ask everybody. Maybe I should do a little poll on Instagram or something.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's put a poll.
I had a kitten appear in my life yesterday. Well, 2 nights ago, and I caught it yesterday morning. Yeah.
I guess that's what we'll put that on Instagram.
Like, been working with us or talking about coming on in the future. Thank you if you're listening. Yeah, we have some exciting people coming up. And we also, you and I will be going this summer, Bad Bunny, which just started getting set up, I think, in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
kind of getting
his residency in PR. That's going to be exciting. We'll make sure to bring people along.
Yeah, so we're super excited. That's our next meetup.
That's it. The next time we'll meet up is in Puerto Rico, and we're gonna see if maybe we can interview somebody from a local organization there. I don't know if we'll be able to do it in person, but if we can at least do it virtually, that'd be.
We got to get back to our in-person skills.
Yeah. Well, once again, listeners, you've made it all the way to the end. You are truly appreciated. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your love, for your support. Once again,
Waggity wag.
Waggity wag. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Comment. Love, peace, and chicken grease.
That's right. That's right. Happy summer. Stay cool.
Stay cool. Root, rise, and reflect.
That's right.
Susie